Good evening. At this time, I'd like to call to order the Planning Commission meeting of October 24th, 2022. For viewers watching at home, some members of the public may be participating via video conference or teleconference. This time, I ask if you're able to please stand and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Commissioner Buss?
Present.
Commissioner Lanson?
Aye.
Commissioner Link?
Here.
Commissioner McMahon? Here. Chair Newman?
Here. We move now to written comments, announcements, supplemental packet, and continuances. And tonight we have with us Deputy Community Development Director, John Dugan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have no supplemental packet or additional written correspondence. I would like to take the opportunity, though, to introduce Greg Gomez, our Community Development Technician 2, who is here to make his first presentation to the Planning Commission.
Welcome, Mr. Gomez. We're glad you're here. Normally at this part of the agenda, we would hear public comments on items that are not on our agenda, but I understand from our secretary we have no public comments this evening. So we will move on to our consent calendar, which contains the minutes of our October 10th, 2022 meeting. Are there any comments, or do any of my fellow commissioners have a motion? Commissioner Buss.
I'd like to move that we approve the minutes as written.
Thank you. Commissioners, any discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask the Secretary to prepare us for a vote.
Commissioner Buss?
Aye.
Commissioner Lanson?
Aye.
Commissioner Link?
Aye.
Commissioner McMahon? Aye. Chair Newman?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, and with that, we will move to our one public hearing for the evening. Will the Secretary please open the public hearing?
Hearing having been advertised as required by law is hereby open to consider Agenda Item 7A, Residential Plan Development Minor Modification RPMN 2022-70667, to allow demolition of an existing 2,526 square foot two-story home and 815 square foot pool house to accommodate the construction of a new 6,593 square foot two-story home, resulting in an increase of the total floor area by 261% of the previously existing dwelling. The project is categorically exempt, CEQA Guidelines Section 15303 as a Class 2 and Class 3 exemption. Located at 2546 Oakshore Drive, the applicant is Jeff Melachar.
Thank you. Presenting on behalf of staff, as Mr. Dugan indicated, is Community Development Director Technician 2, Greg Gomez. And also, if there are questions, we also have with us this evening Planning Division Manager Steve Kearns and Senior Civil Engineer Brad Bussell. Mr. Gomez, good evening.
Good evening, Chair Newman and Planning Commissioners. For your consideration, we have Project RPMN 2022-70667, located at 2546 Oakshore Drive, and the applicant is Jeff Melachar. The project request is to demolish an existing 2,526 square foot two-story home and an 815 square foot detached pool house to be replaced with a new 6,593 square foot two-story home, resulting in an increase of the total floor area by 261% of the previously existing dwelling. The subject property is located on the Westlake Island, which is located south of Agoura Road, north of Triumphal Canyon Road, and east of Westlake Boulevard, and west of the Ventura LA County line. subject property here is highlighted in red with the existing main house on the left, and the smaller accessory building to the right is the existing detached pool house. This lot is 100 feet wide, which, as you can see, is double the size of the adjacent lots, which are only about 50 feet wide. At some point in the past, this lot was divided into 2 lots, and then the land division was reversed through another application, and then they built the pool house. So it's the way the size of it right now is how it currently sits, as a double wide lot. And we are here reviewing this project today because the Thousand Oaks Municipal Code requires that Planning Commission review for requests involving demolition and rebuilding of a single-family home where the total floor area exceeds 150% of the original building floor area. So as stated from the previous slide, this project is dealing with a 261% increase. The property is zoned RPD, Residential Plan Development. The subject lot area is 11,004 square feet. There are no oak trees on the site, and there have been other homes with similar qualities and sizes that have been approved within the same neighborhood, even on the same street, varying from 6,400 square feet to 7,045 square feet in size. This photo is a street view photo of the existing dwelling. To the left of that tree in the foreground is the detached pool house. On the right of that tree, you can see the garage, which is attached to the main dwelling. And this is another street view of the main dwelling at the center of the photo, and the pool house is to the left of this photo. Again, another street view. The proposed house will have 4 bedrooms, 6 full bathrooms, and a 3-car garage. And the footprint of the house will be 4,568 square feet. And the total floor area, including the garage, is 7,623 square feet. And the proposed height is 27 feet 6 inches. These are photos of the front and rear elevation. You get the front elevation on the picture at the top, and on the bottom is the rear elevation. Just want to note that the design does, with a second floor being offset over the first floor, it lends to the fact that it meets the city's architectural design guidelines. The design also shows the different materials being used in certain ways, including siding that runs both vertical and horizontal, and it's a very nice design. This is a plan showing the side elevations to the property. The top photo is the left side of the dwelling, and the bottom photo is the right side. And I just wanted to note on this slide that this is a revised second drawing of the right side elevation, which had some second floor windows eliminated and one to be made opaque for privacy concerns. In staff's review of this project, we found the proposed design to be consistent with others in the neighborhood in regards to scale, mass, and height. and also that building materials and colors compatible with the natural and man-made environment in the area. This slide demonstrates all development standards for the Westlake Island are satisfied and no waivers are being requested. The existing house was built on the property line as a zero lot line property, and the proposed dwelling will be built according to the development standards of Plan Development 640, which should mean that the house would be built a minimum, the first floor would be built a minimum of 5 feet from the side property line. So the applicant here is proposing that an 8-foot-high garden wall along the right westerly side property line in order to preserve the adjacent neighbor's private side yard area that exists with the existing subject dwelling, having been built with a 0 side yard setback. The next slide here has a photo of that neighbor's courtyard. The large white stucco wall that you see is the side of the subject dwelling. There is a neighbor's courtyard beyond the brick wall and wrought iron fence that the neighbor enjoys. Because the proposed dwelling will not be built along the property line, this large white stucco wall will go away and will take away that private courtyard area from the neighbors. So again, they are proposing an 8-foot-high garden wall to keep that area nice and private for the neighbor. This project is categorically exempt from CEQA through both Class 2 and Class 3 exemptions, and no exceptions apply to defeat the exemption as the above project. Staff finds the proposed dwelling to be consistent with other houses in the neighborhood with similar lot size and is consistent with the Westlake Island development standards and the city's precise plan of design guidelines. So staff recommends that Planning Commission find the project exempt from additional environmental review under Class 2 and 3, Class 3 exemptions, and that the Planning Commission approve RPMN MN 2022-70667 based on the findings and subject to the conditions of approval contained in the suggested resolution. This concludes staff presentation, and staff's available for questions.
Mr. Gomez, thank you for your presentation. Commissioners, do we have questions of staff? Commissioner Lanson.
Anybody else ever wants to go first, please let me know. Mr. Gomez, welcome. Thank you very much. A few just kind of questions just to make sure I kind of understand the lay of the land. Did we get any opposition to this application?
We did not get any written opposition. We did, however, once the notice of application went up, a neighbor noticed the sign out in front of the yard, and they reached out to the applicant party, and they had a great discussion, and they came up with a certain design that would suit the needs of the neighbor that had the concerns.
So that was resolved between the applicant, nothing officially we've received as to an opposition?
Correct. Nothing was received by the city.
I noticed in looking at the property, there was a for sale sign. Is this application by the seller, the buyer, or what?
I had not been aware that the property was for sale, but it is the current owner is the applicant on this project.
We'll ask the applicant then. I just wanted to see exactly what the plan was. You indicated in terms of the lots, it looks like it is 2 lots. Has it been reduced to 1 lot, or is it still 2 lots? if you know?
It is one lot. Again, at some point in the past, they divided it into two and then reversed the land division. So it's one lot that is 100 feet wide.
And so the house is going to be, so it's just one lot then? I know this makes reference in the report of two different lots, and I just wanted to make sure we're really talking about one lot, correct?
Correct, it is one lot.
And lastly, with regard to the garden wall, I noticed in their staff report it said that it's looking for an 8-foot wall, which is higher than it says the maximum allowable height. Do we need any kind of variance then from our current codes to allow that wall, or how is that going to then be approved if it's higher than what's allowed?
6-foot high walls are generally what's allowed, but this application is a minor modification application, which allows for staff to process up to half of the current, an increase of up to half of the allowed wall. So technically, they could go up to 9 feet, but the request is only for 8.
Okay, so that's part of the conditions as part of approval then?
Correct.
So to speak, that's consumed within that whole concept?
Correct.
So we don't need a separate thing specifically saying that 2 feet is allowed?
No, it would be covered under this project application type.
Okay. I have nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Buss?
Yeah, I'd like to follow his questions because my questions were in the same vein. I just want to make sure I understand it correctly. So I'm going to repeat back to you what I think I understand, and you're going to tell me yes. The 8-foot tall wall is as per request of the neighbor on that side who's used to having a home there. That's correct?
Correct.
And that can be approved administratively. It's not our problem on the planning commission.
Correct.
Okay, perfect. That answers that. My other question was, you said that this was originally 2 lots, or it was originally 1 lot, then it was subdivided, and then restored to its original appearance.
Correct.
How many lots are 100 feet across on our neck of the woods over there?
There are about 2 other houses that have started out as 2 50-foot wide lots. The owner probably purchased both those lots.
That's what I was going to ask. Were
And
those purchased custom at the time that the developer would put them together?
For the subject property, are you asking about?
Yeah.
The subject property has always been 1 lot at 100-foot wide
As long as it was, since
for
there's certificate of
quite a while
occupancy.
now.
Okay. Yeah, because it seemed like it was just 2 years after the home was built. So I assume they bought them concurrently. And then went through the process to get it unified, right?
My understanding is that it was bought as a 100-foot wide lot, and then they applied for a land division, split it into 2, built the main dwelling, and then applied to remove the split and combine it back again, and then they added the detached pool house. Because the detached pool house is an accessory structure, it has to be accessory to a main dwelling.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes
So-
sense. Yeah, because I was inside the pool house. It doesn't have a back wall. I'm like, this isn't actually like a livable structure. It's not zoned as habitable, right? Or
Correct.
permitted as habitable.
Most accessory structures are considered not habitable.
Yeah. So it's like a shed, technically.
Yes.
Okay. All right, that answers all my questions. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner McMahon?
Yes, the 0 lot lines concerns me. I just want to make sure both neighbors on either side you've talked to them, and on both sides, they are okay with this structure, this big structure that when their houses and their properties go right up to the lot line, both sides are okay with this?
Both sides are, the applicant's side has proposed the 8-foot wall after discussions with the neighbor, and the neighbor is expecting that this 8-foot wall be approved to, keep that enclosed courtyard area at the front of her home.
And what about the neighbor on the other side? Have you talked to them?
I have not. There has been no concern that came from any other neighbors.
And-
And they-
and- excuse me,
they've been
if-
given the notice and all the proper notices and everything like that?
Yes, there was a sign posted, and notifications also went out by mail as required.
Okay, one kind of odd question, I guess, that really makes me nervous about the properties being right on the lot line. How does the demo work where you're not going to affect, be careful not to affect the properties on either side with the demo?
Usually with demolition, in this particular case, it has to happen. I would assume that the contractor hired to do it would be pretty careful as to not disturb the adjacent dwellings and just remove the structure that is there to be removed. But normally that is supervised by the contractor and reviewed by a building inspector to assure that it's been done
And
properly.
there's some sort of a bond or insurance to make sure that if there is an accident, the injured neighbor gets compensated?
The contractor's insurance would have to be in place, and when they pull a building permit, we do make sure that they are properly licensed and bonded.
Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I may, Chair, really quick.
Please.
For clarification, Mr. Buss made a comment regarding the administrative review of the wall. Just to be clear, because this had to come to this body for decision, the decision on the 8-foot wall is within this body's purview under the minor mod. So if it didn't have this major increase in the size and it was an administrative review, that administrative person, the director, for example, of CDD, could actually approve that up to 9 foot under our code. Since it's a minor mod coming to the planning commission, it's within this purview for them to, this is part of the application that you can go up to 8 feet. And your question is a variance, it is, you are allowed under the code to extend it up to 9 feet.
Well, my question is that when we're approving this, are we mandating that they build an 8-foot wall, or are we leaving that open to fate?
The planner can correct me, Mr. Gomez, but I believe that's part of the conditions, that it has to be 8-foot wall pursuant to the plans that were submitted. So the
Because they
plans,
conceivably, if we approve this, could
Right.
they end up with no wall?
no, so the plans actually have that wall
So
in place.
that was why I
Yeah.
asked the phrase it the way I did. Because I just didn't want it to be that we don't say anything and then they can
Correct.
do whatever they want, put a
Correct.
chain link fence in.
So the plan submitted, the plan set has that 8-foot wall in there. The second point is, just for clarification to Ms. McMahon, before, as part of this island area, they do allow 0 lot line. So that is part of it. With this building, they're going to actually create that 5-foot setback, which creates this issue with the wall. But for the record, it is important to note that before this time, the 0 lot line is permitted, and so this is actually moving the setback 5 feet pursuant to our code. To your other question, obviously, when someone is doing construction and they damage somebody else's property, there could be liability for that construction unless it was based on some other attributable fault, right? Whether it's a contractor or whether it's something else that could happen, whatever the facts are. Okay? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Lang.
Just have one question. So, and I tried to do some digging. I found one other staff report online that mentioned it, but I wasn't able to actually find a copy of Resolution 11369. But is it my understanding that the HOA, in essence, really has no purview over the design of the building? It's the resolution that was established through this plan development that actually governs the architectural standards. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So we hold all the keys.
Yes.
Okay. The other thing I just wanted to say is that I did actually pull the tract map. So this was recorded as 2 lots in 1971. It was then merged in 1977. So it was originally 2 lots. It was then merged in 77, and it has been that way since. So it's been a while. But anyway, just clarification.
Thank you. Commissioners, Commissioner Lanson?
Thank you, Chair. I just one more follow-up, actually. The reason I even asked about the lots is that there are some strange situations I get sometimes in my day job where one house is built over 2 lots. That creates a problem in terms of if 51% is on one side in terms of the lender liens and stuff like that. That's why I wanted to make sure we had one lot. Real quick question, and it's a unique property because obviously La Venta is the county line. The two properties that you indicated that uses two lots, those were only on the Ventura side that you found, correct?
Correct.
Because I looked, it kept going down Oak Shore, and there's a few other lots that are also two lots, but that wasn't part of what you were looking at. You were only looking at the Ventura side, correct?
Only on the Ventura side, yes.
Okay. And again, I noticed others that were on the other side, but those were not part of your report. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gomez, thank you again for your report. I'm asking this question not to indicate favor or disfavor of the application, but because it is certain to come up when the public hears about what we decide or don't decide this evening. We're in the midst of a very severe drought. Why are we building a 6,500 square foot house at this time? And is there adequate water to support that house?
I think I would probably refer that to our Public Works Sustainability Division. I don't have a representative here, I believe. Perhaps our Public Works engineer could
Can you
speak
say
on that matter.
if it's staff's position that there is adequate water to support this application?
Staff would probably, I would say yes. There has been no direction to us, to staff, that would prohibit any type of construction. I don't think we've gotten to the point where we've said that we can't do building permits for pools. So I am aware of the drought, but we haven't been directed to say that certain types of construction, including a new house, can't be done.
Okay, so there was no discussion
No.
internally within staff or with the applicant saying, sorry, there's not enough water to proceed here. We feel that there is sufficient. We recognize we're in a crisis here, but we think there is enough to proceed.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Dugan?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd also like to add that this will also require new landscaping under the new higher quality and much more restrictive low water usage requirements that the state and the city's adopted recently. So even though it's a larger building, the utilization of the water will probably be a lot less because the landscape requirements will be much more stringent.
Okay, so we think that the new landscaping, well, one, the footprint of the landscaping, I presume, would be much lower than the current building because the footprint of the house is so much larger. Right, but the net result is the area that does require watering, the landscaping that does require watering would be much more water efficient than what we currently have. Is that understanding correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then my other question is the same question with regard to the project plan set includes an infinity pool. And as you referenced, there is a moratorium on, my understanding is on some or all pool construction. So where are we on that?
The pool is actually proposed through a separate permit. I think the architect just put it on there as part of the future plans, but it's my understanding that we haven't been restricted on issuing pool permits yet.
Okay, again, Mr. Dugan.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the restriction, as I understand it, is on filling the pools at this point, utilizing the water while the drought and restrictions are on, but there's no limit on constructing a pool.
So is it hypothetically then, since we don't know that this pool will or will not be included, and I will ask the applicant, I'll follow up there, but if that being the case, is it conceivable we would give permission this evening to construct a pool, but then not be able to fill it under current conditions?
The approval of the pool is not under review under this application. It is just for the home only.
I see.
A separate pool application would have to come in, and at that time, if there is, if the city is not accepting pool applications because of the drought, then we wouldn't accept it at that time.
But that's an administrative matter, correct? I can't recall a pool
A pool,
application ever coming before this commission.
yes, a pool application is administrative.
Very good. All right, thank you. Commissioner Buss, I think, had a... Very good. Thank you. Commissioners, are there any other questions before we go to our applicant? Commissioner Link?
Just out of morbid curiosity, could the homeowner drain his existing pool, store the water, and then put it back into the pool once he constructs the new one? Considering he
Only
has
if he gets a self-storage unit to do it.
They do that. Just checking. You don't need to answer that.
I think it would be an opportune time to move to our applicant. So, presenting for our applicant this evening is Brian Lehrman. And Mr. Lehrman, we ask that you introduce yourself and state your name and city of residence. And you have up to 15 minutes, if you need it, to give your presentation. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Brian Lehrman, reside in Simi Valley. Our office is here in Thousand Oaks. I'm one of the principals of ARC Design Group, who happily is here to present on behalf of the homeowner, who unfortunately couldn't be here this evening, and hopefully answer questions and go through our process a little bit. So now that I've heard the discussion, can hopefully put your minds at ease. We've spent a number of months working on this, obviously, to get it to this point. And thank you, Mr. Gomez, for your assistance through this process. That's been a great assistance to us. Planning department, we work with them in and out of all projects. So for us, that's great. This is a very unique piece of land, and we feel blessed to be able to design the home for this site. We've done other work in the community and some of the newer homes that are on single wide lots. To have a double wide lot is pretty exciting because it allows us this opportunity that a lot of the homeowners don't have the ability to accomplish, and that's privacy, setbacks, a little bit more parking, the items that you just can't get done in one of the narrower parcels. And fortunately, the homeowner has allowed us to take this project to a comfortable size, in our opinion, that even though it sounds large, if you think about it, and this was divided into two lots, there could be 9,000 square feet sitting here versus the size that it is based upon maximizing each individual lot. By addressing the house to, like you heard, it doesn't have excessive bedrooms. It has a nice public area. It has very large setbacks that assist the adjacent homeowners. To the east is a zero lot line, and to address some of the questions, we have a 10-foot setback on our first floor to that zero lot line, which is kind of unheard of on the Westlake Island, to have something that isn't a zero lot line at 10 feet. And then to the back of the parcel, it's even larger. Our second floor is set back 20 feet, and it's not the entire length of the home because our entire garage and mudroom is 1 story. So they've been blessed with this concept of having this individual house being built versus a 2-story wall up against their zero lot line. So that works really well. On the west side, we did have discussions, and actually the resident is here, coincidentally, and met with their concerns for privacy, which we completely respect on every project, went back to our homeowner with their concerns and redesigned some of the window areas, actually omitted windows, so we're not looking down into their entry courtyard. A lot of the homes that are single lot sizes have side entries versus front entries, just because they have this 10-foot strip where you can come down and enter the house and therefore have some rooms up front. And that's the case to the west of us. So by removing our second floor windows, we now aren't imposing on their entry courtyard, and we have great windows to the front of the home, and there was no opposition from our client to do so, including frosting one bathroom window just so there's no visual looking down into their space. The discussion with the adjacent homeowner went into a lot of detail and pointing and looking at areas and assisting with what we could with describing the massing that's going to occur. We do have a 5-foot setback for a very small bay area, and then we're 7 feet for the rest of the first floor along that side yard, which is kind of also a blessing for a zero lot line consideration, because the house is set back so much. The wall concept is really essential to respect their privacy, that 8-foot wall. And after meeting with them, or meeting with her, and walking through it, it was clear, and we didn't have any opposition, even to the extent that I shared back with the homeowner, our client, that should be initially done right after demo. There's no reason, construction's going to take a while on the project, that right after the demolition of the existing home with the zero lot line is completed, that wall can be permitted and built prior to anything else. So that needs to be done immediately to give them back their privacy, and it'll help with any debris, dust, and other things during construction. So that's already been discussed on our end and accepted. It's not something that's in conditions, but it's said tonight, so everybody can be aware of that. The rear yard, as I was suggesting in what we were able to accomplish, takes us from what typically is done in the other homes that we've done, where we have a 27 or 27-foot 6 setback for a rear house line from the water line, or 24/6 from property line. There's different setbacks depending on whether you're looking at city setbacks or HOA setbacks, that we have to comply with both. It's not one or the other, it's all of the above. Takes us to the fact that we have 47 feet from the property line to our great room door unit. And once again, that's kind of unheard of on the Westlake Island, for somebody to be sitting in their great room and have that kind of privacy, and then have a large covered area that isn't an appendage on the back of a house, but integrated into the architecture, so that when they're out on their entertaining area, which everybody loves these outdoor covered living spaces, that they don't feel like they look across and see their neighbor. We've wrapped it in such a way that there's some legs on both sides to protect them and to protect each neighbor on both sides of the lot when they're out in the backyard. And then even across the back where the kitchen window is, we have a 36-foot setback, which is just, like I said, I feel blessed to be able to design this, because for somebody to live in a home like this, once it's completed, is kind of a rare opportunity to have those extra amenities that most of the homes just can't get. We also, in the garage concept, we didn't want to go crazy. We wanted extra parking because it is a special parcel. But instead of running 4 garage doors exposed, we did 1 in tandem, so it looks like part of the house, and we presented 3 so that it's not out of scale and overwhelming. A lot of the homes have 2 cars, plus some have lifts, some have tandem. We've done a number of things, but this is a creative way to give that extra space, whether it's storage, bike storage, or somebody can keep a car in that area. I think that pretty much covers my thoughts, and here if there's any questions.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Commissioners, are there questions of this speaker? Commissioner Buzz.
Quick question for our attorney. Is a verbal commitment in a planning meeting have any legal standing?
No, I mean, the condition is going to be the condition. There is a condition 25 in the
So-
packet and the plans that say the 8-foot wall. The fact that he's going to do it at an
First.
earlier time is a professional courtesy that he's presenting to you.
Okay, so it doesn't matter, right?
Correct.
All right.
And just to underscore that, when we vote, we're voting on a proposal that includes condition 25.
Yeah, so we're including the wall, it's just, we're not saying the order,
Correct.
but he is. All right, and then my biggest question is, I think it was already mentioned, the property's listed for sale currently. You're representing the current owner in this design, right?
Correct.
Are you under the impression, I know you can't guarantee this, but are you under the impression this is going to be built and then the property is going to be sold that way, or is the property currently listed for sale as is?
All of the above. So the market has changed. The homeowner has the intent to build this and live in it. Obviously, something special if there's the right buyer. I can't say that somebody wouldn't sell it. The intent is to build it and live in it, and that's what we've been hired to do. This home has specifics for their family and their needs. We've designed rooms to, accomplish their wish list, basically. So whether it would be sold based upon somebody recognizing its special qualities, that's always the case. Why he listed it, I wasn't aware that it was listed, to tell you the truth, because we've been working with him hand in hand, and he knows we're here tonight. So I think it's possibly just open for a possibility based upon market shifts.
Okay.
Yeah. This is a big commitment for somebody to step up, even though I see the value in something special like this. I've experienced there's always a buyer, and we've done some amazing stuff in the whole community of Thousand Oaks, Ventura County area, and our homes carry value beyond what the market value is, because when they're done right and when it's carefully designed, somebody falls in love with it. But for a homeowner, he gets to pay for it. I don't pay for it, so I can only say that, and we'll see.
I appreciate your enthusiasm for the project. Thank you, sir.
Commissioners, any other questions of this speaker? Commissioner Lanson.
Thank you, Chair Newman. Again, I don't want to bring you up, but is it possible for you to tell us who these people sitting with you are specifically?
Yes.
If I may, just to jump in, we do have one other public speaker listed, is
Okay.
Jana Yost, and
Yeah.
and we will give you an opportunity to come up and speak if you like.
I didn't know if they had signed the
Perfect,
cards,
yeah.
so that's fine. But
I didn't know if it was for this or something else.
okay, just following up along. So the property looks like it's been up for sale since August, but that's not something you knew before tonight.
I haven't been out back on site. We've been waiting for this meeting. We finished our design other than some tweaks. We actually made the adjustments. We met with Jana on August 24th and made those adjustments. That's the last time I was out there.
I'm just trying to focus on, again, for the community to know if this owner is going to do it, or is basically she just getting the entitlements to then sell the property subject to those entitlements for another buyer to actually end up dealing with. That's my question.
And I don't have an answer. My understanding is they're going to build this house as the owner. We've been working towards that. This is not a developer that I'm aware of that does this. We work with developers. This is a homeowner who fell in love with this, had another smaller parcel without privacy that he lived in, and he sold to purchase this to get to this point. So other than probably concern over market value and expense, we were rolling with building it.
Do you have, along that line, and I know I'm asking for speculation, assuming this goes well tonight, do you have a certain idea of when it would start?
We would be looking at, we probably have another 3 to 4 months in engineering. We haven't engineered it yet, waiting for this approval. And then our Public Works review process, our building and safety process, and our agency sign-offs, and then it would start. So 3 months at the fastest, probably 4 months realistically.
Okay, and you heard our chair talk about our water problem. That's a big issue that comes up in
Yeah.
every development, is how are we doing this when we have no water? What would you say to that?
So the existing residence has a water meter. We're not changing the fact that there is a water meter, and it is a fact that everything we're putting in this new project will be more drought tolerant, low use. The existing house is the original house. I'm sure that, I'm not sure. I have only walked through it once, but the water usage of that older home is probably far greater than what we're doing these days. And it's just like you were discussing, and I agree with 100%. In looking at lot coverage, we have less that we're watering. I mean, we're gonna have drip systems. We're gonna have drought tolerant ground cover. No one really these days wants a lot of maintenance or water usage, so we're all really tuned into that, especially in new construction. I mean, we're all scrambling on existing residences and our own personal use. And new construction, luckily enough, they have a lot of good tools for us to use with regard to how they're doing the drip systems and the timers. We don't have a lot of landscaping. We have enough that we're going to present a pretty front area and driveway. So when you do look at the aerial or the Google Earth or site image, there's a fair amount of landscaping on that existing site. So I could comfortably say we're going to use less water.
Would you agree with Mr. Gomez's comment with regard to the delay in terms of the pool being designed and dealt with?
Yeah, that's something that we're dealing with on, all of our estate. This is all we do is residential estate work. We don't do commercial or industrial. And this is something that we're challenged with in our state. And it's a case-by-case basis, and it's about timing. There are some of our homeowners, just for knowledge, that are building pools, and in some communities, they are restricted from filling them, and they're using outside sources and paying for water with trucks to fill their pools. I know that the city of Thousand Oaks isn't there.
Yes,
but
we've had stories about something like that from years ago.
There are other ways to accomplish this. Hopefully by the time we need this pool, because it'll be towards the end of the project, we will have a great deal of rain and we will be relaxed in this.
Is there any interest in somehow getting the water out of the existing pool and holding on to it for some period of time?
It's beyond my expertise. I can't imagine that to be the case with
I tried, Justin.
with treatment of that
Appreciate
water.
that. One last question. The report makes reference to the Westlake Island Homeowners Association. Have you gotten approval, some involvement? What communication?
Yeah, we went through a whole process, just like we do on every home within the Westlake Homeowners Association, and they have an architect on their board, and we meet with them on every project and have full approval for this project after doing our tweaks prior to even going to Planning Commission, because we have to present, well, I guess we don't, as it's been mentioned, but we feel like we do, and maybe that's just the legal end. We don't move forward without Homeowners Association approval to the next step.
Those lawyers can be very exacting.
So that's in place.
Just to confirm, you have something in writing giving that approval from the
Yes, we
association?
have a Homeowners Association approval.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Thank you. Commissioners, other questions? Commissioner McMahon.
Okay, not to belabor the point. So it is understood that the neighbors who are going to get the 8-foot wall have been in discussions and are fine with the project. And have the neighbors on the other side, have you talked to them? Are you aware if the homeowner has talked to them about their side?
The homeowner with the 8-foot wall, who's present here this evening, I met with her at her home, and I believe it's very clear as to, well, it is very clear because it wasn't present, and we developed it together as to what would be acceptable. So my understanding is at this point, she's very happy, they're very happy with the goal that was set and the fact that it's in the approved plan. The homeowner to the east, I have not met with. There was a posting up front, the legal posting, and there was no opposition, so I didn't spend any time meeting with them or discussing the project in any way.
Thank you, that's all.
Thank you. Commissioner Ling?
I actually don't have any questions. I just wanted to say that after reviewing the plans, I realized what was missing from my life, which was a mini bar in my closet. So, clever idea. I hope to incorporate that into my life in the future.
I don't have any additional questions other than to note my wife and I also discussed several features of your design in a very complimentary way.
Thank you. Appreciate
you.
it.
We do have one other public speaker tonight. Are there any other questions for this speaker? And that is Jana Yost, or Yost. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. You've got, I think the clock was at 5 minutes for your presentation. We ask that you come to the lectern and state your name and city of residence. Good evening.
Hi, Jana Yost, and I live next door to the project on the west side, 2538 Oak Shore Drive. And I did meet with Brian, and we did talk about things, but there's certain things that I'm concerned about. And so can I show you a few pictures?
Yes, there's a projector to your left.
Okay, so I'm going to put it on the PO. Is that showing all of it?
Yes.
So the reason I'm showing you these is to show you the privacy that I have right now, and part of the reason I bought this house.
Can, if you would, Ms. Yost, if you could please speak into the microphone.
I'm sorry. The reason
you.
I'm showing you these pictures is to show you how much privacy I have, and part of the reason that I bought this house was
Yes.
because of this privacy. And that's the 10-foot wall. And then above that, the roof slants, and there's no windows at all up above. I have nothing, no one looking down to look at anything. We can go out in our PJs, and we don't have to worry about anybody seeing us, and we like that. So this is the front. This is the front courtyard. And that's the back courtyard, and I don't know if you can see, but that's my dog. That is my dog. And I have very tiny, tiny dogs, 5 pounds and under. And so because they're so little, I can't let them go out in the backyard because we have hawks, we have owls, we have all kinds of, we had a bobcat next door on the property that we're talking about. And it's dangerous, so we can't let our little dogs out there. And so we use this side yard because it works perfect for them. They're safe in there. That's another picture of my backside yard. So it goes all the way the length. That's the picture out my kitchen window, completely private. I don't know if you can see that, but that's the picture of the latest hawk that was trying to get my dogs. They call to them and try to get them to come down on the grass, but we keep them fenced in, and we have that privacy, so they're safe. Those are my dogs. They're the ones I'm worried about. So when I met with Brian, we did talk about a lot of things, and we both compromised. I compromised because there's still windows looking down. And he thought at the time that the wall could only be 8 feet. So why I'm here is because I would like the wall to be 9 feet, which, listening, I heard that can be approved. And when they tear that wall down, I'm going to have nothing. No protection for my dogs, nothing to keep the dirt and all the dust and everything coming into my yard. I have COPD. I have horrible allergies. There's nothing to protect me. And I asked if it was possible to saw cut and somehow leave that 10-foot wall until the building was done. And Brian doesn't think that would work. So I would like to be, have put into the commission, the plans, what do you call it? Permitting, that the wall has to be built immediately after that wall gets torn down. Because I can't have that wide open like that. It could be 2 to 4 years before the house is built. And I have nothing, no privacy at all. And when I talked to the owner, Jeff, I called him and I told him I was concerned about things. So he called Brian and Brian came over and we compromised on some things. And he went right to the city and got the plans changed. Am I done? And so...
Yes, I'm sorry, but if you could just wrap up your comments, please.
The next day, the owner put the house on the market. The very next day. So if it was the 25th, on the 26th, the house went on the market. And that's why I want these things written in so that that wall is built, because I don't know who's going to own the house. I don't know if they'll even use those same plans. They might build a different house. And I can take their word for it because I feel like they're honest people, but I don't know how honest they really are because they put it on the market right after he talked to me. And he was telling me.
Thank you,
Yeah, okay.
Ms. Yost. I appreciate your comments. Before you go, I think,
I just have one quick question for you. How
Commissioner
long have you
Brose?
known your neighbor?
What?
How long have you known the neighbor?
The guy that's buying the house?
The-
Jeff, Mulchern, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know him. I've only talked to him on the phone a couple of times, and he told me his biggest fear was the privacy issue, and he wasn't sure he was going to make any money off of it if he had to sell it. But the neighbor that lives there now is the lady that owned
Oh.
it before, and I've known her for 5 years, but she doesn't own the house.
So your neighbor is a tenant, not the owner?
Now she is. She sold the house and then she's leasing it back.
Oh, okay.
And so she has to be moved by January 31st.
Do you know when she sold the property?
When?
Yeah.
Well, I think it was in escrow for a long time, and then I think it finally closed escrow in March.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
Commissioners, are there any other questions of the speaker? I just want to be sure I understand. You're saying that the woman the applicant for this project is named Jeff Melchior, who I presume is the property owner. Are you saying that Jeff Melchior does not currently live in this house?
No,
Okay, but he is renting it to a woman who
that owned it prior.
previously owned it some time ago.
And so to make it clear, I really would like it in writing that maybe I could have a 9-foot wall and that it would be built right after the
Understood.
house is torn down.
Understood. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks very much. Okay, we go back to staff now for follow-up comments. Mr. Gomez?
Yes. Staff has no comments.
Okay.
Chair Newman, if I may,
Mr. Kern?
in response to the comments made by the neighbor, we can impose a condition in the entitlement which requires that the wall be constructed as phase one, essentially, of the redevelopment of the site. We can add language specifically to address that, and if the commission elects to allow a 9-foot high wall, we can have that as part of the condition as well. And I can craft language for that as you deliberate, if you like.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Could I just get clarification? We can or cannot require that as a Phase 1?
Can.
You can.
Can.
Yes.
And as a follow-up, what are our, we, as a general rule, we do not like to design from the dais. A difference between 8 feet and 9 feet is a small one, but what flexibility do we have with regard to wall height?
I really wouldn't think this as being a design from the dais circumstance. There's a 12-foot high common wall right now along the property line, which is the
Yes.
house wall. So we're basically replacing that with a 9-foot high garden wall to
Okay.
separate the two lots.
Well, 8 feet as
Well, 8
stated.
foot as proposed, but 9
Right.
foot if you choose to
All right,
raise it a foot.
okay, very good. Are there other questions of staff?
Yes.
Commissioner Link?
So, just to clarify, what's being proposed here for the wall, that's a wooden fence, CMU? Is it non-specific?
It's a CMU. It's a block wall.
CMU. Okay, so in this case, I'd like to hear from Mr. Bussell, because at some point, and this might be of interest to Ms. Yost, when you get to a certain height on a CMU block wall like this, the footing then becomes, you can't design a cantilever footing for an 8-foot high CMU wall. Or the cantilever footing then becomes so large that it then imposes upon the footprint or the foundation of the house. So potentially, the footing of this wall might actually be on Ms. Yost's property, and then it would become a common wall. So I'm curious, I mean, 8 feet is already high for a CMU wall to have a cantilever footing, to only have the construction on the subject property? Am I remiss there, or?
Yeah. Good evening, Chair Newman, fellow commissioners. Yeah, I think you said it exactly right. I don't know if you remember on the Starbucks project, we did an 8-foot wall there. That footing on that, I think, was almost 4 feet wide, might have even been 5 feet wide. So if you're going to do that here, and it's probably not going to be a cantilever, because then you're getting all the way over to the house. And if you do the full 5, 6 feet wide footing, it is going to intrude on her property. And if she's willing to accept that, then, I mean, it's going to be a big footing.
Yes, because at some point, 9 feet then becomes structural. It's no longer just a block wall, it's a structural element, and it needs to be engineered as such. So then your reinforcing steel becomes more important, your footing becomes a lot more important, otherwise the wall can topple over. So and the footing may have to be deep as well, because then the surcharge over the top of the footing, in order to keep it from toppling over, then becomes an issue, especially if it's a cantilever footing. So, and a cantilever, in other words, is all the footing is on one side of the wall, whereas most of the time, the stem is in the center of the footing. And for a wall that height, and I'm blocking the camera, but a wall that height needs to be supported on either side by soil to make sure that there is no toppling moment, especially during earthquakes. So the taller we make this wall, the worse it gets as far as the footing is concerned. So somebody may have to come in and tear up your patio in order to construct the wall.
And just for clarification on this, what is the proposed location of the wall as proposed right now? Where is that wall, the farthest point of the wall with regard to the lot line? Is it at the lot line?
Yeah, the wall is being proposed right on the lot line.
I see. Commissioners, are there any other questions or comments for Commissioner Lanson?
Thank you, Chair. So back to the wall issue. The HOA, again, not that we necessarily need their approval, but they approved, I believe, an 8-foot wall. If we start talking about higher lengths or higher distance or heights, does that create an issue for the HOA to go back and look at that? They may have other guidelines or problems. But again, is our rules precedent to that? If we say 9 foot, do they have to take that? Just let him answer first, and we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know who would have precedence over that, if that would be the homeowners association or the city. I think, as Mr. Heehire said earlier, it's not either or, it is both.
I apologize.
The question being is, to the extent that there was a discussion about raising it beyond 8 feet to 9 feet, and the HOA has already only approved 8 feet, what authority do we have to basically go over that?
Well, we have the authority to make a decision based on our guidelines and our municipal code and public safety code and any state code that applies. I think that the problem you're going to have is you have the conflict now if you decide to suggest, and again, this is a condition that would be changed that the applicant would have to approve as well. And just as a reminder, the architect here is representing the owner, not, the owner is not here. But what could happen, of course, is that the HOA has its own guidelines, and they might be architectural guidelines that are nothing to do with public safety, for example, or engineering purposes, but just the look itself as far as a wall by itself versus a home. Now, again, this is a place that has 0 lot line, so I'm not sure that would be an issue, but the fact is we do not know that it would be an issue or not, and so they have approved an 8-foot wall based on the plans that were submitted that include that 8-foot wall, and certainly it would be up to them to, again, make a decision on whether or not they would approve it themselves. Now, that just puts the conflict for the applicant. It's not the conflict for us because we can, of course, make a decision based on what our guidelines say.
I guess the question at that point is to the extent that the applicant would consider the higher wall, and again, in light of Mr. Link's comments, what happens with the foundation?
Yeah, I think what I would recommend is maybe with the architect here being for the applicant that we have the discussion with him for his 5 minutes, and we have that discussion just so we hear from him as to the feasibility of that before we close the hearing, so we can make that kind of a better judgment call on that issue.
Leave that to the chair.
I concur with Mr. Heher. Let's bring the applicant's representative back up, if we will, and we'll go back to staff after that.
So it's absolutely correct that the higher the wall gets, the larger the footing is going to need to be. The reality in all cases is it's a 0 lot line, and the residence could have been built at the 0 lot line just like the existing condition. So good stewards of what we do as neighbors, if this was 2 lots and somebody was tearing down their house, like happens so often these days, to build a new home, that wall would be down for the full extent, or there would be a temporary chain link fence with some screening on it, where there will be an inconvenience, but the wall at 8 feet will get us very close to the underside of the patio cover that sits on the neighboring property for screening. There's the windows that still reside towards the lakeside on our second floor won't have any imposition with the existing patio cover that's there. And that's as we were standing in the backyard looking up at what potentially will be there as a massing. You won't be able to see it other than the wall at the floor system, but the windows are above that. So I don't see a privacy issue at all with an 8-foot high wall. And the fact that we remove the windows to the front, there will be a wall that they will see that currently there isn't, but no one will be looking at them, and it won't be at the 0 lot line, obviously. It'll be 7 feet away from the property line because we've offset it. Not sure how to, I was thinking about the footing condition because we do often do caissons and grade beams and other things with walls when we have slope stability issues, but with the water table in the community, I don't know that there's another engineering possibility to accomplish this if we go too high.
If I may, and I'm not asking you to do speed civil engineering here, but hypothetically, if the wall were to go to 9 feet, what do you think would need to change with regard to the footing?
Well, it would have to be repositioned to be on both lots. I don't think that cantilevered condition with that area where we have 5 feet would accomplish it.
So there would be some incursion on the neighboring property to do this at 9 feet?
Yes, that would be my understanding to accomplish that, which would be challenging and more challenging with coordination.
Is there currently any incursion on the neighboring property with the 8 feet that are proposed?
No, the intent is not. We haven't engineered it yet, but the intent is not to.
Just to
And
stay on the applicant's
correct,
property.
correct. Because there's landscaping and other improvements on the other side of the zero lot line. And our goal was to do our best to preserve what's there, and including any surcharge on patio cover posts or anything else that's present that were on our
So
side.
to summarize, at 8 feet as proposed, this is self-contained within the applicant's property. At 9 feet, it would not be. Is that a fair statement?
Correct. And even though it is a property line wall, the face of the exterior CMU is on the property line. The entire wall is on our side, where in typical standards, you'd build the wall center of property line, but we don't want to impact anything that's on the adjacent parcel.
So the discussion up to now has not been about a wall that's centered on a property line. It's about keeping it self-contained.
I don't think we even discussed it. We just did what was right. I don't know that we went into that detail as to, I mean, I guess we did because the existing zero lot line of the house is presented like that. So
Right.
the expectation is that it's going to meet the same conditions.
That was my interpretation of the staff
Yeah.
report and looking at the plans. It
Yeah.
looks like it's all
It-
on the
It
property.
wasn't discussed, but to me, that's obvious.
Yes, okay. Commissioners, are there any other questions? All right, thank you. Thanks very much.
Hey, really quick, I'm sorry, Chair. For the applicant, please. If you want to have any discussion about modifying the condition, which is 25 regarding the 8-foot wall, and I think I understand what you were asking, Chair, but there was a second component to that question, which was whether or not they could build the wall as a condition, as Mr. Best was saying, as a condition that it's built in phase 1 versus being silent in the conditions as to when it will be built. And so the next question is, if you are going to entertain as a condition that you are going to modify the condition to say that the wall needed to be built in phase 1, as Mr. Kern suggested, is the applicant okay with affirming that condition modification? If that's where, again, I'm just trying to anticipate where you might be going with this matter.
It's an important point.
Yeah, I think it should
have
be,
asked for
it should be
your,
said, especially if there is a different owner at some point, that they're protected with that concept. I mean,
The question to you, sir, would be whether or not you would agree to that condition modification if it is suggested by this body.
I will agree, and I know that Jeff, the homeowner, will agree also, because that's his intent, and if something was to transfer, that should be the intent of a new owner once, and however, the verbiage is contained for, I don't know how, other than immediately following demolition. I mean, phase 1 doesn't really mean anything.
So I think it would have to do with demolition and certification of the grading for the demolition, so, because you're going to be doing grading as well, so.
Correct.
I think it's going to be, once that's certified, that the wall would be built as part of the first phase of the construction of the complex, if that makes sense to you and
Yes.
is fair to you.
Yes.
Okay, so at a high level, then, you're giving your agreement to
Correct.
add a condition that would require the wall to be built first.
Yeah, it's already been discussed, and the intent is present. That's not something that is
Okay.
new today. What's new today is important based upon if a transaction occurred and I'm not representing the current owner, that it needs to follow the property and the approval process, not the owner.
Yes, that's a separate question.
That's the important part, because
Right.
we've already agreed
Not-
to it and have
not-
intent,
right.
but it should be part of that process on the approval.
Right. Yeah, and strong agreement that that's an important question, but as currently written, the conditions do not require the wall be phase 1, if you will.
Correct.
We would be adding a new condition, and I think you've given your consent to do that.
Yeah, we've already done it verbally, so
yeah.
if it's in a written form, it's not an issue.
Chair, maybe staff has a condition
Mr. Kern?
modification to suggest Again, this is just a suggestion at this time, since there's been no motion to change that.
Yeah, we go back to the PowerPoint. Mr. Gomez has some crafted language suggesting language that complies with that.
Okay. Just before we do, just as a matter of process, are there any other questions for the applicant? Thank you, sir. We go back to staff.
Yes, on the PowerPoint slide that is displayed right now is an example of a condition we can impose in the resolution, which states prior to beginning of construction, the replacement dwelling, the applicant shall obtain a building permit and have under construction an 8-foot high garden wall along the west side property line.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from staff or responses to anything the applicant or public speaker has said?
I have none at this time.
All right. Our commissioners, do we have questions of staff? Commissioner Lanson.
Thank you, Chair Newman. Mr. Gomez, just to confirm, and I think to align Ms. Yost's comments or fears, is that if this is approved, then again, ultimately, if the current owner is not the owner, these plans and these conditions run with the land, correct? So that anybody that buys this property would be subject to these rules and conditions.
That is correct.
Including the requirement that you just had in the event we go for that concept in terms of the 8-foot wall, in terms of its timing, correct?
Correct.
What's the deadline by which this construction would have to be done?
In order to inaugurate this entitlement, they have 3 years from today's date to pull a building permit.
Okay. I have no further questions of staff. Again, it's unique, but I would like to hear maybe from Ms. Yost at some point to see if this works for her, since she's the one that brought up this issue, but that's just my request.
Thank you. Commissioner McMahon?
The phrase that you just put up there, you say under construction, does it need to be more defined that and finished? This just means they could just put up I don't know how it's made, but the rebar and it's under construction. Could we put something that's more definite, that it's, solid and, near finished? And I don't know how to make sure that it entitles the dogs to run around and not be tromped on by the construction workers on the other side of the fence.
I hate to use this phrase, but substantially complete.
I believe we can possibly alter this, the wording of this condition to say that it needs to have a pass a final building inspection, potentially before construction can occur on the house.
Commissioner Buss?
I may be operating on some delusions here, but I'm not under the impression that somebody can demolish this entire structure and then build another wall in super short order. We're talking on the order of weeks. And I know that the neighbor is concerned primarily about her dogs, about the exposure during demolition, all of those things. And I don't think we here from the dais can fix that, because we're talking about making a correction that's going to be on the order of weeks. This isn't going to solve her fundamental issues, just so we're all clear on that. That's my impression.
Commissioners, are there other questions of staff? Okay, Commissioner Lanson has suggested that we come back to Ms. Yost, which we are able to do. Ms. Yost, if you'd care to come up again. There's been some discussion, just to review where we are. There is a proposal to add a condition that would, as you requested, build the wall first before anything else happens. And I presume that would be part of the total package of conditions we would vote on. There's been some discussion of the way walls are constructed. And part of that discussion involved the fact that as currently proposed at 8 feet, there are two aspects of this. Number one, the wall is, and its support is entirely on your neighbor's property, not on your property, with no disruption to your property. But if it were to go above 8 feet, say to 9 feet, or to 9 feet, there would be a need to go onto your property and to do construction on your property as well as the applicants. That's point one. Point two is that the applicant has stated that with the compromises that you and he worked out, that the patio cover would substantially or completely block the view from the second story. So it would afford you, if I'm stating the applicant's position correctly, the applicant is asserting that the privacy concerns you're raising would be addressed by that patio cover and the wall that is not there now. So that's where we are currently. If you have any comments or responses to what we've just discussed, please feel free.
Well, I didn't realize it was that big of a deal to add a foot. So I guess I could be happy with the 8 foot. So that's really not a problem. So the main thing is that whoever builds has to get that wall up as soon as possible. And not even as soon, it needs to have a timeline. In 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I can deal with that. You know, I can keep my dogs in and guard them and all that, but to just endless, or to have it in phase one where that could be 3 years from now before they do that, that'd be horrible. But a couple of weeks, I can deal with that. That seems reasonable.
I don't know that Mr. Heer may want to comment on this. Just with regard to timelines, it's not within our power to command a builder or an applicant to say, this must be done in this period. There may be other parts of the planning process that have requirements like that, but that's not something that is a question before us tonight. However, I can say that there is if you will, a 3-year shot clock on this entire proposal, that if construction doesn't happen in 3 years, the applicant has to come back and get do this whole process all over again. And that has happened to multiple applicants before, where for whatever reason, they didn't do what the conditions required. And it's very costly, so they're very strongly incentivized to get this done in the time allotted.
So does that mean I could go for 3 years without a wall? Is that what you're telling me?
No, I'm not saying
Have no
that.
way to have
I'm not saying
any
that.
privacy at all, that I'm
No.
looking out at a field of construction for 3 years?
No, because the 3 years is to get a building permit. So they can't break ground, can't do anything unless all of the conditions are in place.
Right, but that's why we're here. They're getting a building permit. They want to start building on it.
No, ma'am. We are not issuing a building permit tonight. We should be clear on that. The application before us is for a set of plans and the general, much more abstract idea about land use. There's still a lot of engineering and approvals that have to happen before a building permit is issued. This is just to say, in principle, the land use is okay. Building permit is much further down the road. And not much, I shouldn't say much further, but this is not about saying construction will begin tomorrow. It's nothing like that. This is land use
So how am I protected?
by the conditions that are in the plan.
Which one is that? It's
Well,
protecting
the
me
two
to have-
specific ones that refer to the concerns and the compromise, and I want to compliment you for working with the applicant on this. You and he, not us, you and the applicant did this. You talked about your concerns and you worked out a compromise. And that compromise was an 8-foot wall that gives you privacy from your second story or their second story by your patio cover. And then that's number one. And then number two is we've asked staff to come up with, and they've produced an additional condition to require that wall to be built first thing. So those are protections for you.
Okay.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I just hope he builds it, because I trust them.
Very good, thank you. Are there any other questions of either staff or the applicant?
Chair, just, I apologize for this.
Mr.
but,
Here.
Since you did allow the public comment to come in after the rebuttal time period, there is a time period, then I'll just double check with the applicant before you close the hearing. So for due process, that the applicant has a final say before you close the hearing.
An important point of fair play. For the applicant, if you wish to make any response or additional comments, we should afford you a chance to do so. You don't have to, but if you do, I want to give you that opportunity. Thank you. All right. Are there any other comments or questions of staff before we go? Very good. With that, I will close the public hearing and open the floor for either a motion or discussion. Commissioners. Commissioner Link.
I think before we get to a motion, maybe we ought to talk about how we're going to craft this before we, or whether, because I think Commissioner Buss brings up an interesting point, is that, I mean, from a logistical standpoint, once the house is demolished, they have to remove the footing of the house, and then they have to excavate in order to construct the footing for the wall. So where these things happen and what, I mean, obviously, we're not imposing a timeline here, but it's, I think there are some items here that might need to clarify.
Mr. Heer?
Yeah, first of all, I want to make it clear, and I see Mr. Bussel's up on the dais now too, so he might be able to chime in, but I want to make it clear that with any construction that's going to happen, there's going to be a demolition, there's going to be grading, there's going to be, those factors are going to be into play, and every property owner who is approved to either build or modify, reconstruct, demolish a property is going to have, those impacts are going to be on the neighboring community. The way that we do our various conditions is to include that they follow the various guidelines, and based on the size of the complex and what's being changed, you're going to have different conditions come into play, such as making sure dust control, making sure waterways are protected, those kind of things. So I think that's important just to remind everybody that demolition is going to happen. People are going to be impacted for a period of time. With that said, as Mr. Gomez put up a condition, I was going to modify it a little bit and then have Mr. Bussell or Mr. Kearns or Mr. Gomez, if they want to chime in, because now is the time to modify this condition 25.
And again, on process grounds, do we need to reopen the public hearing or go back to the applicant?
This is exactly what he affirmed, so I think we're good with that. It's just about the timing of it, which was a question from...
And again, on process grounds, are we okay to go back to staff now that we've closed the public hearing?
Just so we have clarification of the condition that I thought I heard from the comments, especially from Mr. Buss and Mr. Knudsen.
Very good.
So it was prior to the beginning construction of the replacement dwelling, the applicant shall obtain a building permit and obtain final inspection sign-off of an 8-foot-high garden wall along the west side property line. Now, I'm not sure if that covers what you are thinking, staff, as to that condition 25, but that is where I started.
I want to ask a question.
Commissioner Buss.
So we've already discussed that they haven't gone into engineering yet. We're talking about cantilevering on the one side. We're talking about the footing for the house on the other side. I'm not even certain, because I'm not a soils engineer, if you can do these separate and not concurrently with each other, since they're going to be doing trenching. And, I don't know what this is going to involve, but they're building a 2-story structure on the other side. and an 8-foot wall on the other side, is it physically possible to do those things separately from each other? Can anybody give me a heads up on that before we require it legally on somebody out of the blue?
Yeah, I'm not a soils engineer either, but I think you can also.
I've talked to a bunch, though.
You can design the retaining wall and the footings for the house if the house is 5 feet away. More than likely, the footings of the house are going to go straight down, and then you still have some room for the footings for the wall.
Okay, so you think it'll be safe?
I think it can be done.
Okay.
And Mr. Heer, if you could please read the condition one more time, just so we're clear on that.
And before I read it, does staff have any further comments? I mean, I just wrote this from the draft I saw up there and just added a couple things. Is that make sense to staff as far as who have to implement this and engineering who?
I just had a
Might be
question.
some-
I mean,
sure.
the existing, as I understand it, the existing wall of the house is on the property line. And we're saying that we have to get a permit and replace with the new wall before they tear down the existing wall? I mean, you're going to have to move the existing wall before you can build the new fence.
Yeah, I believe the demolition and the grading is going to take place because they have to remove, as you said, the buildings that are there, the pool structure that is there. So that was understood. As far as the building permit, it's talking about the new home that's going to be built. And that's how I understood it. And if I'm mistaken, please, staff, let me know or just affirm that I'm correct.
Well, the intent of the condition was to ensure that the wall, of course, is built first, because that's the crux of the issue here. We don't want to hold up all the construction. We want them to get into building permit process and actually get the permits issued, so we don't have a project that's being phased where you have incessant construction noise and activities, backup alarms of trucks, that kind of thing happening, and disturbing the neighborhood for a longer period of time than we have to. So the idea is to let them get into construction with the house, but have the wall being built at the same time. The wall should obviously not take as long as other construction activities, and the site preparation for the house itself, the foundation, the footings, those kind of things. Back to the timing of the wall, there is a code prescription that requires diligent pursuit of the construction activities once construction is, or the use is inaugurated. So if the director determines that there's not continuous construction, then we can revisit the permits and the entitlements that they have obtained by this body. But we can monitor that and make sure that they're following up on the wall and make sure that that's built.
Okay, so with that, again, if you would please reread the condition.
Well, if I understand Mr. Kearns, he's not agreeing with the condition change that I made, so he wants to continue with the condition that's on the screen, correct? That's presented, because what I believe Mr. Kearns is saying is that with the condition that you have on the main screen here, what that is saying is that you have to start the wall as you start the construction, period. And if you start that wall, it obviously makes sense that you're not going to start the wall and then stop working on the wall. It's got to be something that's going to be completed because you have a contractor working on that specific part. And then the rest of the house is going to follow. So the wall has to be worked on as the beginning of the construction, no matter what.
Right, and completed before the house is occupied.
Okay, so you do want to keep, if I understand staff, you want to keep the condition as on the main screen?
I'm comfortable enforcing that condition as it's written.
As displayed on the screen.
As displayed on the screen, yes.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Kearns. Commissioner Link.
And I just want to make clear to Ms. Yost, this just means that the wall is being constructed first. So in terms of timeline, the wall will be constructed first. It doesn't necessarily guarantee that there is going to be a barrier on your patio to prevent your animals or anybody else from getting into your yard. There may be a period of time with which that will be open. And potentially, if any temporary fencing is put up as part of it, it will probably have to be on your property because there will be a hole in the ground because it's a zero lot line and the foundation goes straight down. So just so you're aware, this condition only requires that the first thing built on that property following demolition is the wall, and then everything follows after that.
I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm sorry. We're in closed hearing now, so we're not able to have back and forth discussion at this point. I'm sorry. Commissioners, are there other discussions of this or other conditions? Commissioner Buzz.
So I just want to go ahead and make the motion. Let's get this done. I would like to, oh, shoot, where is it? I would like to move that we approve RPMN 2022-70667 based upon the findings and subject to the conditions therein, including that amendment. My quick comment on this is, it seems to me that hopefully this project will get done. I think at this point it's up in the air based upon prevailing market conditions in real estate. So there's a strong possibility this may not happen anytime soon, but hopefully sometime in the next 3 years, this project can get underway. And hopefully this gentleman who advocated for it so eloquently gets the opportunity to make it happen. I do feel for the neighbor. I understand what their concerns are. This is one of the hazards of living in a neighborhood that does have 0 lot lines, is that you cannot guarantee what your neighbors are going to do at all times. I recently moved into a property a couple of years ago, and I have 3 neighbors. One, I kept the existing structure between us. One, I paid to replace the entire thing because that neighbor wasn't able to do so, and I split the other one 50-50. So I know what it's like to have neighbors of differing abilities and different interests and different architectural styles and all those fun things. And so I am empathetic to you, but sometimes it is beyond our control because that is the neighbor's property. And you would have the option to build a wall on your side if their wall's unsatisfactory. But that is the magic of being able to control your own destiny on your own property. And so with that, I give my approval to this project.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other comments? Commissioner Lanson.
Thank you, Chair. First, I want to thank the applicant for doing something in terms of improving the property, Mr. Lerman for working with the neighbors and providing what looks to be a beautiful project. I want to actually, all the things we're talking about, I want to thank you for all the stuff you've done in terms of making a good project and trying to work within the process and communicate with neighbors. Ms. Yost, I know it's hard for you to see, but you have an entire city that's actually been trying to protect you as part of this process. It's hard because there's lots of things that we can do and lots of things we can't do. The application as they're presented fits within our codes and rules. It fits within the landscaping guidelines of the HOA. It fits within a lot of concepts, which you've heard for the last 45 minutes is us trying to find ways to make it as minimal in terms of the impact on you as possible. I think we've done that. And again, I think there's obviously some unknowns that I know you're concerned about, and I think we all are, if you haven't heard from every single person here, trying to make sure we understand some things. The problem is we don't know exactly who's going to build this and when. As Commissioner Buss said, the economics right now are such that it may not be a great time to build. Who knows when it actually might be done, if at all. But at the same point, I think we've done enough to kind of protect as much as we can the process to make sure your dogs are protected, to make sure we have given you that security. And by the way, again, it's hard for everybody here to know, but I think we've all gone out of our way to hopefully try to do that for you. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and support the motion because I think it is a good improved use of the property. I think it looks good. I think it fits within the concept. There's lots of properties along that area that have actually had this kind of development. It fits in. It's not too much based upon what I've seen. So I'll go ahead and support the motion.
Thank you. Commissioner?
No, other than to say that I will support the motion as well. I think we probably beat this horse pretty hard, and I think that, I hope that by adding the condition with the wall that we are trying to accommodate and not have a big giant empty lot for you, and hopefully we'll try to provide as much protection as possible, as quickly and as feasibly as we can with our building permit conditions and various other things that have to occur on the site. Otherwise, nothing will get done. And the last thing that you probably want to see is just an empty lot next to your house. So keep the process moving, get that wall up there as soon as we can for you, and move along. And again, very beautiful project. A lot of ideas I would never have thought of myself that I hope to incorporate in the near future, but should I have the means and ability. But again, I will support this.
Thank you. I want to compliment both the applicant and the Yost family for being open to discussing and giving and taking a little and having a real conversation. And arriving at what I hope is a good and meaningful accommodation, and I hope that we furthered that a little more tonight in our discussion. I want to echo the other comments that have been made about the application. We do have a water crisis. We do, as commissioners, get questions about why we're doing anything in the middle of a drought. I think you've shown great sensitivity in addressing that, and I completely agree with your conjecture that the new project will be much more water efficient than the house that's been there for decades. That's certainly the case given the landscaping and the much greater efficiency, water efficiency of newer buildings. So I think that's a good response to a crisis we have. I also, again, think it's very good that you and Ms. Yost have discussed your concerns. Just on a personal note, we're a dog family as well. In my house, we have small dogs. We have the same concerns as you do. And it's sometimes said that a compromise is one where both sides go away unhappy. that both sides give something and they say, I didn't really get what I wanted. But they may not see that they also get what they did want, which is the protection of your dogs. I don't want to pretend there's not going to be noise and disruption around construction. There will, and I completely agree with Commissioner Buss's comment that when you're in a neighborhood that has 0 lot lines and there's an existing house that goes right up to that lot line, there will be disruption to remove that house to put in the wall. But you gain the promise tonight that the wall will be the first thing that happens when construction begins. And I certainly hope that will protect both your privacy and certainly your dogs as well. That's important to ensure. So I appreciate your willingness to go back and forth on that. And I will also support the project, and with that, I will ask the secretary to prepare us for a vote.
If I may, Chair, I hate to interrupt.
Please.
Before the vote is taken, just for clarity and efficiency, the additional comment or condition that Mr. Gomez placed up is going to be placed at the end of condition number 25. So for staff, for clarity, that this condition flows with condition 25, so it reads that it would just be added to condition 25, if that makes sense.
Just as a clarification, is it an extension of condition 25? Or
It's
is
just
it a new?
adding to it. It's an extension of it. It's not
Okay.
changing
It's not
25.
it's not a different condition.
Correct. It is literally just adding it for tonight. I think that's the best process.
Very good.
Thank you.
Saves having to renumber, too. Madam Secretary.
Commissioner Buss?
Aye.
Commissioner Lanson?
Aye.
Commissioner Link?
Aye.
Commissioner McMahon?
Aye.
Chair Newman?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
This is an appealable application, so I'm required to read that any aggrieved party who wishes to appeal the Planning Commission's decision may do so by filing an appeal with the Community Development Department within 10 days. Thank you. Thank you all for attending, and thank you for choosing to do this project here. We don't have any department reports this evening, so we will then move to commission comments and AB 1234 reports. Commissioners? I have one comment, and this is a bit out of left field. Well, not really, but different, changing gears for a moment here. Both at the previous Planning Commission hearing, our most recent one, and at a candidates forum, I heard very well-intentioned, with good faith, uses of the term grandfathered being used to refer to something that was already in place. And I'm not sure if probably the commissioners are aware, but I'm not sure if the general public is aware that that term grandfathered has a not very good history. Its origin is in Jim Crow laws to suppress the right to vote based on race. It literally meant that someone would not be allowed to vote unless their grandfather was entitled to vote, which goes back to a time when people's grandfathers couldn't vote because they were the, quote, wrong race. So just as a comment, I would encourage us in our public life to avoid using the term grandfathered. And if I may, I'll work with the recording secretary to provide a link with the history of the term. And I can suggest a few alternatives which are constructive and don't have this negative connotation. And they would include phrases like excused, or exempted, or legacied, or pre-approved, or pre-authorized. And again, I think the people who said this were saying it with good intentions. I don't think anyone here meant to say that was a good thing, that there were grandfather clauses. But I think if we're going to be a government that works for all our residents, it would be better to use these terms rather than grandfather. Thank you. Commissioner Lanson.
Just thinking, I also wanted to thank the Thousand Oaks Rotary for putting on a fantastic street fair for the city. Number one. Number two, tonight is the last night to register to vote. So please, if you haven't registered, please do so.
Thank you very much on both points. Commissioners, are there any other comments? Commissioner Link.
We do actually have a meeting on Halloween. Some of us will be here, others of us will not be, but I will not be, so I wanted to wish everybody a safe Halloween and take your kiddos out, get some candy, et cetera, et cetera. Be safe out there.
Thank you. Okay, then we'll wrap up with our staff update. Mr. Dugan, are there any follow-up items?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. On October 25th, at the City Council meeting tomorrow evening, there'll be a public hearing on the self-storage item we heard at our last meeting. And there'll be a public hearing on the building code update, a department report on Many Mansions Bella Vista refinancing, and the fire code update will be on the consent calendar. On November 1st will be a department report on the inclusionary housing and linkage fee feasibility nexus study, and the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy Advisory Committee city appointment will be on that consent calendar. And then items coming up with the Planning Commission, as was just mentioned, there's a schedule on October 31st to have 4 Dish Wireless Communication Facility public hearings located at 1350 East Jans Road, 1586 Pedersen Road, 1614 Court Acero Road, and 1360 South Windy Drive.
Thank you. And with that, I will go ahead and adjourn. We are now adjourned to our next meeting, October 31st at 6 p.m. Good evening, Thousand Oaks.